Y'all, I'm thrilled today to welcome my friend Amy Odland to the show. Amy has been helping authors launch their books into the world since 2017, and her goal is always to make the launching process as organized and fun as possible for all involved. I so enjoy seeing Amy's love for books shared on her Instagram account, and her name has been mentioned so many times by my author and publisher friends. I knew I had to have her on to share all about book launches with you all, so let's get to it. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Book Marketing Mania podcast. I'm your host, Kim Stewart, and I'm so glad you're tuning in today. Hey, Amy. Welcome to the Book Marketing Mania podcast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hey, Kim. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so glad that you asked me to be part of this, and I can't wait to chat today.
Yes, I know my audience is going to have so much to learn. Y'all heard me talk in the introduction all about Amy and how she comes such highly recommended for managing book launch teams. So I couldn't wait to dive into this topic with her today. And so, Amy, our listeners are all nonfiction authors or bloggers that are blogging in the hopes of writing a nonfiction book. And some of them are traditionally published, some of them are self-published. And I know you've worked with both authors and had launch teams for both. So I'd love for you just to maybe kind of share a little bit about the differences you've seen between the two, because I know oftentimes people think if I get a book traditionally published, then the publisher pays for everything, a launch team, all kinds of good stuff, and helps with all those things. And so I would love for you just to share from your side of what you've seen launching books, how they differ between traditional and self-published.
Sure. Yes, I have helped both traditionally published and self-published authors. And I'm actually getting to the point where I'm balanced in numbers in regards to authors in who is self-published and who is traditionally published. And obviously, the biggest difference between the two is that when you're traditionally published, you, yes, have some help from the publisher. They help get word out about your book in the ways that, most of us don't even realize in catalogs and in different connections that they have that, I really don't even understand completely because the part that I deal with is not that part. And so the amount of explaining that is done to me in regards to what is actually happening still feels a little like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain controlling all of the controls so that the wizard head works. So there is that aspect to being traditionally published in addition to the help that you get with creating the cover and editing and hashing out title that is good, and all of the little steps that it takes to put a book out. And so then turning that around to self-publishing is that you have to do all of that yourself, and you don't have people pushing you to go through the steps or the accountability. In a sense, it's all on you, and or you have to find the help to have the help to do that. And so that's the biggest difference. And going back then to traditionally published, I'll try to spit that out, is that people then tend to think, oh, well, I have somebody pushing me to get this done, or they're doing this for me, so I can kind of kick back and relax, and I'll just do stuff when they tell me, kind of an attitude about it, which as people say, in the year of our Lord 2021, that is definitely not the case because so much of it is on the author now in regards to help getting word out about the book and the book marketing package kind of as a whole, besides the very small chunk of the pie that the publisher is actually doing. And yeah, so.
Yeah, it's a lot to do, right? No matter what route you take. Do you see a lot of a difference in the timeline of when an author starts to work on those promotions? Like, is it, one or the other? Do you see that they start kind of teasing out content about their book earlier, one way or another, or, gathering their launch team earlier, one way or another?
I see a difference, but technically there shouldn't be a difference. And so, if you're working on getting a book deal and you already, you're blogging and you're working on the proposal and finding an agent and going through all of these steps to try to get traditionally published, you're getting an idea of what the timeline is and how long it takes. An author that I've worked with, Kate Battistelli, I think the whole process for her, I think she said took like 8 years. And that was the writing and then the pursuing a contract, going through edits and different things like that with the editor, and then finally being published and getting it printed and everything. And so it's not necessarily a process that should be hurried. And I know that there's people in the self-publishing world that like to tout, be published in a week or 90 days or whatever. And sure, it's kind of like fast food or a gourmet meal. Well, yes, there are some quality things that are put out in 90 days or a week. Generally, if something is thrown out very quickly, you get what you pay for. You either get it cheap and fast, or how that phrase goes. I can't think of it all right now, but quality can suffer if you skip some of the steps of that process.
Yeah. And I know, like on the self-publishing side, I mean, it's gotten better and better, right? I know many authors have commented on it. It's getting easier and easier to like actually get the book published, like on Amazon. And I know just, maybe getting the design and stuff, if you do have a professional to turn to, it's a little bit, I say easier. I mean, I laugh because I haven't published a book, but you know what I mean? The process is getting easier, but I know what is not getting easier is the marketing side of it, right? And we tend to procrastinate on that. So I would love just for you to share from your experiences, why authors need to really start thinking about a launch team long before they typically do think about a launch team.
Sure. Yeah, you're so right in saying that marketing is kind of the last piece that's thought of. And the process is so much easier to be self-published. Self-published is definitely not the same game that it was back even in 2017 in regards to just the resources that are out there for free. And then also the number of people that you are able to connect with either through coaching or creating book covers and editing. There's just a lot more people available to help with that. But yeah, the marketing part, for some reason, gets kind of pushed to the back burner and like, yeah, we'll deal with that later. Kind of like the garage, and then how eventually the garage is so full that you can't park in it anymore. And the interesting thing to me that always surprises me is it's like, well, you spent all of this time and effort and sweat and tears in the writing process and the editing and creating the cover, coming up with the title, doing all of that. And then yet you don't want to market it so that people know about it and can read it and learn from your wisdom. So yeah, that always shocks me a little bit, but
yeah,
that is more common than people think.
Yeah, that's so true. And again, I can't even imagine, when you get done writing a book, you're probably so tired of it, right? You just want to set it aside. Or, for some of the authors that we both have worked with, they're on their next book. They don't have time to stop and market it because they're just like on to their next deadline. So it's just crazy how those can stack up over time. So I did want to ask you, how did you get started in launching books for authors?
Sure. So the short version, it was back when Jen Hatmaker was releasing For the Love. I applied to be on her launch team, and they were going to accept 500 people on the launch team. And it was like kind of first come, first serve thing. And so I had saw it 2 minutes after it was posted, and it was like, oh yes, speed typing through this application to submit. All right. Yes, I definitely got to be one of the first 500. And then they left that thing open all weekend, and they got 5,000 applicants to the launch team. And I did not make it because I didn't have much of a social media presence back then. And then there were a couple people that started this like rebel launch team. They were called the 4,500. And it was Anna LeBaron and somebody else. I can never remember her name, but I was part of that group. And so then we helped launch For the Love kind of as the alternate launch team. And we actually had a little bit more sway maybe than the actual launch team. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I just kind of signed up for every single launch team that I could be on, just to show them that I was actually, a good launch team member, and what they should have picked me as the 500.
That's right.
But it started out in spite.
Yeah.
Which is, not necessarily the best way to start, but whatever, it got me to where I am now. And I think I signed up for like 70 launch teams in a year, and then did, almost that many the next year, not quite maybe, but at some point, after seeing so many authors go through this process, and then how people were running the launch teams back then, reading some of Tim Grall's free information, Jeff Walker's product launch formula stuff, and who was like Chandler Bolt, he had a published book out back then, and Pat Flynn, and then there are a couple other people too. Just I thought, well, okay, I'm good at telling people what to do, unfortunately, and then I can see what the process. I could do this, and so I just did it for free for a couple authors, and then I started having publishing companies contact me and connecting me with authors. And here I am now, 2021. I think I had 15 to 20. I haven't completely totaled it up yet, because this year has been a little bit of a whirlwind, but 15 to 20 authors that I worked with this year to help release their book.
That is so amazing. That's how I'd gotten started working with authors too, was just offering your services. And you typically do. Yeah. If you're around the launch teams and an author can see that you're an active part and that you truly support their message, there's tons of things you could offer to help with authors. So if anybody out there listening is like Amy and I, and just really passionate about books and supporting authors, and you might want to get into some of that kind of work, just, feel free to reach out to us, or reach out to your favorite author and just offer up your support, because you would be surprised what might come out of that. So I love for you sharing that, because I didn't really know what your origin story was. So can you tell us, Amy, why an author, what the importance of why an author needs a launch team when they get ready to launch a book?
Sure. Yes. A launch team is just part of the whole marketing package, in a sense, or pie. It's just a slice of the pie. And what a launch team can help you do is, one, obviously read your book before it's available. And then two, be ready to start posting reviews right away as soon as your book goes live, so that you don't have this big, long pause between when your book goes live and when it starts having reviews that people can read to determine if they want to purchase the book or not. And it's no different than, the way that, like Jeff Walker is, this week when we're recording this, is releasing, or is doing his yearly launch free webinar kind of thing. And he just talks about that there's a lot of kind of work before a product releases, and a book is a product, obviously, and a launch team is just part of that work that happens before, and you're helping build the buzz about the book. You're having people that are they're generally your fans, so they've either been following you for a while or reading your work. They just want more of it, and so they want to eat up your book, in a sense, and help you in that way in posting a review. And generally, because it's mostly your fans that have joined this launch team, you generally get some pretty positive reviews out of that process too then.
Yeah, that's so great. And I know from doing launch teams years ago, there's Amy's kind of wrapped it up pretty sweetly and shortly, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that somebody like Amy running your launch team does for you that you probably don't even know, right? That's even happening. But talk about just, how important it is to have somebody to kind of lead that charge of your launch team. Obviously authors can do it on their own, and we will definitely talk about that a little bit, about how you support authors in that way. But what about just how you support them or support the publisher in actually leading the launch team? Can you just kind of talk a little bit about all the different things you do? Because there's just so much that one understands what goes into running a launch team. But so talk about the importance of having somebody to lead that if you are able to.
Yeah. So the first and biggest reason, obviously, is time, because you as the author are a limited being with limited time and limited energy. There's only so many hours in the day, and you have to sleep and eat, and preferably shower still. For those people that have to be around you, probably make requests of that. But if you're planning to do podcast interviews, if you're planning to have guest blog posts, if you're planning to do, these are kind of coming back now after COVID, book tour, whether it is, and whether it's virtual or actually in person, it still takes a considerable amount of time. There's a lot of admin stuff that goes along with a launch team. And it is like, it's like teaching a class in a little bit. And so there's a considerable amount of time that goes into communicating and coordinating and just keeping track of like who wins prizes if you have incentive contests. There's a lot of admin stuff. And as far as I've been able to tell so far, most authors don't really enjoy the admin part of things. They want to create, they want to do the writing. And so that, and then the second reason too, is that it's hard, I think, and this is a pretty common thing for writers, to promote yourself, to promote your own stuff, to cheerlead, in a sense, your own things. Like you said a little bit ago, Kim, you just get sick of talking about the book. You get sick of yourself, in a sense. And everybody does that. I get sick of myself.
Right.
Quite frequently. And so to have somebody else in there who's kind of a cheerleader that can help, encourage and excite the team in ways that you don't have to as an author, is a huge relief. I use the illustration of childbirth, and midwifery quite often in regards to a book launch manager, in the sense of you're squirting out a book into the world. And if you were giving birth to a child, would you do that all by yourself and try to catch it and cut the cord and everything? No, you'd have some people helping you, ideally. And so why would you go through the process of putting out a book where that whole process in itself is a thing that you have to kind of work through, where you feel like you're exposing parts of you that people don't know completely in your book. And that book is going to be around for a long time. And the process of getting it out is definitely a labor, in a sense. It's a lot of work.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Labor of love for sure. So yes. I imagine, just thinking back on this, like I imagine, a publisher reaches out to you and, you're kind of in charge of getting the launch team together, right? You might be writing the emails that the author sends out, or you might be helping them with posting on social media that there's a launch team coming and they can apply for it. And you probably put together the application form that they fill out and gather all those email addresses and do all the email communication with the launch team, as well as, managing the Facebook group. I remember I was not always the best at that, because it is a lot of work. And I do think it's a huge gift. Like, you have to have that gift for being kind of the cheerleader. Like, even though I loved the authors I worked with, right? And I would have done anything to help them get the message out. But boy, just, really getting in there every day and cheering everybody on and, making them feel seen and heard in a Facebook group is so important. And I know, like you said about the reviews, I know we did a lot of discussion times, let's talk about what you've been reading. And then, when the release week comes out, just cheering everybody on to leave a review. And if there's giveaways, or if somebody hasn't left a review, you're just keeping tab on all those details, like you said, that an author does not have time to do. And I truly, truly do think it's a huge gift, Amy, that you've been given to do this, because I always hear your name a lot. I know a lot of authors that have worked with you, and they just love you so much. And so I hope that any of our listeners thinking about doing something with a launch team will reach out to Amy and get her to support you. So I'd love for you to share, and that was not a paid endorsement.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That's
wow.
from my heart, because I know what it's
thank you.
like to do it. And I know you do a fantastic job of it.
Oh,
So
thank
I
you.
want you to share, and I did tell you ahead of time, you don't have to share your trade secrets, because I know everybody that comes up with really creative things, you don't want to share them because you don't want somebody to just turn around and do the same thing on their launch team. But if there's any maybe creative things you've seen on your launch team or even others that have really encouraged the team to share about the book, or maybe some creative things authors have done with their launch teams, would you maybe share some of those just to kind of inspire our listeners?
Yeah. Okay. So this one is tricky because the last couple of years, and I have to tell you that when I read your question, and you can edit some of this out if you need to, I thought, oh my, what can I share? Because the last couple of years have been so crazy, and not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, so some of the tricks that I maybe used to use didn't work in some teams, depending on the time of when the book was releasing, and just with what's happening in the distractions in the world, depending on when the book is releasing. It was like I have to come up with new tricks, and then there were certain times where I felt like I ran out of tricks, and so I guess the biggest like encouragement that I would say to authors before I share any other tricks would be, if you're releasing, from now moving forward, is to have flexibility woven into your launch team, like the release, the month or two after, have flexibility woven into that, because as we know, as we're recording this right now, there's supply chain issues. And before that, there was a mass exodus from Facebook when there was the 6-hour blackout. Before that, there was, just COVID ups and downs. If COVID was crazy in an area, there was no activity in a Facebook group during that area. And then, of course, a year ago, there were no hashtags. You couldn't use hashtags on social media. So your book hashtag was null and void for being able to find other posts about it, or have people find information by clicking on that, because they were shut down with the election. And then riots in 2020. And it's been like the playbook has been rewritten every month or every few weeks, it feels like. So a quick trick or whatever that I would use is, like you said, to make people feel seen in the group. And I have seen people admin a group and not reply to people or like, or whatever the comments at least. And that's a huge thing. And it feels like that, does that even matter thing? But it does, because that is a group of, it's people. And we tend to forget that what we're doing is still people oriented, even though it's all digital, whether it's,
right,
your book is digital, the group is all meeting digitally. And that one thing, if it works with your group, and it's not something that has to be done like every week, like we used to do, where you'd go Facebook Live in your group and talk about, chapters 1 through 3 this week. If you do like a Zoom and have people meet just once or twice during the book launch, people have seemed to enjoy that more than just watching Facebook Live, because they can actually interact and ask questions and whatnot too. But it kind of depends on the team. And that is one of my secrets. And it's because one of my strength finders is individualization, is that you have to decide for yourself as an author, what is the best use of my time? And that depends on what your team looks like. It's very similar to teachers, how teachers say, well, my class this year, ... and then the next year it's completely different thing. Their class needs more help, just, sitting still and being quiet or whatever, so that they can actually hear. And each launch team is different. And it depends on how an author has I don't want to say groomed, but that's kind of the best word right now here. How has the author created engagement before the launch team with their fans? If it's mostly via email, then their fans probably aren't going to interact much in it, like a Facebook group. If it's mostly on Instagram, again, a Facebook group maybe might be kind of slow, and there might be other ways that you need to look at communicating with your launch team. And so to take where you're at as an author when you're releasing this book and where your strengths are, and feed off of those in order to maximize them, and then also to help build your weaknesses, whether that's on a platform or just you haven't emailed as much as you should, quote, air quotes, should, because we all should be doing so many things, but who has time to do all of that, especially when you're just starting out and it's mostly just you doing everything. And so to take what you have time to do and tackle the areas that are the best use of your time is what I try to help my authors do, so that it's not just another list that you can get on the internet for free of what you should do for a book launch.
Right. Yeah, I think those are good tips. And you're right. We do have to remember that we are living in different times than just a couple of years ago. So yeah, book launch teams would definitely look different. And we never know what's coming down the pipe in the future. But I think it just goes back to what you were talking about earlier, just kind of having, I guess we want to have a little bit more of our runway with our book launches, right? Be thinking about them way ahead of time. And part of that is because you can have time for that creative, juices to flow and start making, just start jotting down things you see other people doing on social media or in their email list. And again, it's not for the purpose of copying what somebody else is doing, but just being inspired by it, And I know a lot of people have told me like about podcasting or book marketing is like go even outside of our genre, right? And see what other people are doing, because you'd be really surprised, and then really think about, well, how can I make that work in my particular niche? That would be really helpful to do that. But I think, just having more time to think on things that you could do when the time comes, or like you said, if we do have these bumps in the road that come up that we weren't expecting, just being able to be flexible with that and know that, we keep marketing our books as long as we want to sell them. And so obviously we're trying to get a big push around the release date, but that, you can still grab this community of fans. And like you said, it depends on how the author's been interacting with them beforehand. Like, are these people that the author's really familiar with, or are they new to the author? And, either way, they're probably going to stay engaged with you if you stay engaged with them afterwards and just keep sharing about the book. And so let's talk about Amazon reviews. We'll pick on Amazon. I mean, I know we can leave Goodreads reviews and we can leave other bookstore reviews, but I know the coveted thing is Amazon reviews. So talk a little bit about your opinion on why that's so important to you for the launch teams. And also, is there anything you can recommend for authors to get reviews from their books?
Sure. Yes. Oh no, it's so easy to pick on Amazon. That's okay. I can jump in on that. So yes, obviously Goodreads is important because that is like the Facebook of readers. It's where the readers go to share about what they're reading and what they think about it. So it's important to get reviews on there. Doesn't necessarily do anything for, advertising or free promotion in a sense, except for that, you're reaching readers. Amazon, obviously, they have their AI developed such that when you get so many numbers of reviews, they start doing different magical little promotion things in different areas of the website. And so, and I know that there's discussion in self-publishing world in regards to what number you have to hit and what exactly is done when and whatever. And I don't know if I'm going to add to that. I'm just going to say that, yes, obviously Amazon does something at some point, whether it's 50 or 100 or what, there is benefit to having reviews on Amazon to get that free promotion in a sense, because everybody's buying stuff from Amazon, and to have someone searching up a book that's a topic similar to yours, and to have your book appear below that saying people who also, searched this book you're looking at read these books, is a pretty beneficial thing. Amazon is a fickle pickle. I think I had somebody in the launch team say, which is a pretty, kosher way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, they were reading like every single review that was submitted. I don't know if they're doing that now. At one point, they were only allowing people to submit a review once, not edit it and resubmit it again. You had one chance at getting your Amazon review in. And if the gavel came down that you were, found guilty and they rejected your review, there was no chance of really contesting it, except for if there really was nothing wrong and you kind of, rebutted back saying what's wrong, and then they approved it. But now I've heard that I had someone that had their review rejected and they were able to edit it and resubmit. And so, playing the Amazon reviews game is kind of like playing Monopoly with somebody who changes the rules every single time you go around the board.
Yeah, like, similar to social media, right?
Yes. So what's the rule on hashtags on Instagram now?
What day is it?
Goodness sakes, who else is doing reels now? I don't know. I can't keep track. But so Amazon reviews, obviously, the best thing is to try to prepare your launch team in advance to avoid getting reviews rejected. And then also trying to get them to pre-order from Amazon, because I still think that the verified purchase banner is weighted more than just a regular review. I think, don't quote me on that, because
no, I totally agree. Yeah. And again, as Amy said, this could change tomorrow, right? Or change whenever this
right.
airs. But yeah, I've noticed, like, I don't know that I'm trying to remember if I've ever gotten one that was like rejected back to me, like where I knew it was rejected. I know I've had several where they just took them forever to air, for them to release the review. I do know, if it's verified, at least right now, it seems like it goes up a lot quicker. And I have seen on some lunch teams where it said, like, the author would post, "Hey, Amazon, put up a note on one of the reviews that just basically said, I've gotten too many reviews today, so we're only doing verified reviews." So I'm sure, that is back when, we would try to get launch teams to all review, really quickly. And so again,
right.
that could be changing for sure. So how do you encourage your book launch team participants to actually leave the review?
Okay. So what you were just saying about how we used to really push for like reviews to go up on launch day, that has definitely changed in the last couple of years. If not even 2019, I'm trying to remember when the push started to be more like launch week versus launch day. And that helps alleviate some of that bottleneck process because I've seen some people release a book, and these are larger platforms generally that have this happen, where Amazon just is like, whoa, we're shutting it down. No reviews are getting through for days. And they're sitting at 0 reviews for days. And so I've seen some people try to alleviate that by saying A through F, post your reviews on these days. And, they schedule it out like that. Nowadays, with having it within a week of release, because you can't guarantee that everyone will have received their Amazon book by launch day, that once they get their book, if they post their review, it generally spaces it out so that you don't end up with that bottleneck of having reviews get backed up. To incentivize reviews, so obviously Amazon has rules against like directly paying people for posting a review. You can't do that. And there's other guidelines as well for because they don't want authors to be padding their review numbers, obviously. And that's why they've created all of these extra hoops and rules and police forces. And I don't know what else they have. But you can still run like a contest. And if you're pushing for reviews to happen in that first week of release, then people have a week to get their review up, share on social media, maybe get their review up on some other book retailers to get some additional entries into a drawing for a prize. And you could, depending on your launch team, you could have a few different prizes. For some larger launch teams, I've had like eight or 10 winners of prizes of, varying amounts of gift cards or items or, different combinations of things. That is an incentive that the launch team would obviously know about beforehand. So they know that this is coming up and they're ready to go and post their review within that week and get entered into a drawing. And that is perfectly legal. And that's generally what I do to help get reviews up on Amazon. And then also it helps to get reviews up on the other sites as well. Because if your book is listed on Barnes and Noble and Books A Million and Target or Walmart, christianbook.com, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Sometimes maybe if you are using a hybrid publisher, they have it listed on their site as well. So there's a lot of different places that you can review on just besides Goodreads and Amazon.
Yeah, you never know where somebody's going to stumble upon it, and hopefully they'll see that review and make a decision to purchase the book. That's so great. So, Amy, I was telling you before I recorded, and maybe I'll say this in my introduction. I was so surprised at all the different things you do. So if you are a traditionally published author, be sure and tell your publisher to reach out to Amy way in advance to get her book to help lead your launch team. Or if you are a self-published author, you could also reach out to Amy directly. But I want to ask about the other things you offer. So if somebody doesn't have it in their budget to have somebody run their launch team, will you kind of share about your other offerings that they might be interested in?
Sure. So let's see, one option that I offer is kind of the do-it-yourself launch package. And that in a sense, pretty much transplants my brain and that individualization that I'm talking about in regards to where you're at as an author and what you need help with most during your launch period. It takes some of the little tricks and things that I use for a launch team and gives that stuff to you to either implement, or if you have a friend that you have to help you be that cheerleader and stuff that we talked about, they can implement it too. I've used that for a few different authors. I also have just coaching packages that one can either be standalone or you can pair it with leading a launch team for you. So an example would be that I've worked with a few authors that we've done a few months of coaching beforehand so that they could help build a really good solid ramp up to the launch team and then, beyond that release day and just the different things on social media and such. Because the launch team is just a small package if you're not doing all of the things that you can do on social media to create buzz, even just about the launch team coming. Sometimes authors are like, mum's the word on their book, and then all of a sudden, boom, the launch team application hits, and everyone's like, "What? you wrote a book? What's this?
Right.
What's a launch team?" And then that door just closes like that for the launch team. They've missed the opportunity. You haven't gotten the team that you could have had, and then so it's just about potential and doing what you can with your knowledge that you have. And like I've said, time and energy, as those are limited resources for all of us.
Yeah, that's great. Well, tell our listeners where they can best connect with you, Amy, after this.
Sure. The best place, let's see, is email Amy at amyodland.com. It's ODLAND. That's obviously my website as well, amyodland.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Great. Oh, good. Well, I encourage everybody to reach out to Amy if you need some support for your next launch. And this has been awesome, Amy. Thank you so much for your time today to encourage our listeners.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kim. I really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that you reached out to visit about this stuff.
Don't y'all love Amy? We'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Hop over to Instagram and leave us a comment or DM, and I'll put a link here in the player so you can easily get to our profiles. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you back here in 2 weeks to help you market your book one podcast at a time.